Я подтверждение ситуации передаю настройку. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, AK heads. We are back with another episode of the Talking Lead AK Korner. This is Season 3, Episode 4. And we're going to be talking a little Kalashnismithing. And we brought some experts on board to do that. Joining me, as always, my co-host is Brian Keeney with Occam Defense Solutions. Brian?
Great to be here again, talking with bright people about stuff I love.
That's right. The AK is something that everybody is growing to love, I do believe. And Brian and I have been you joined us last season. You were kind of my co-host all last season too, right? During season 2?
Yeah.
Pretty much the whole season. And now season 3, we're in the 4th episode of 12. So we got a lot more this season to get into. So if you've got...
Right along. We're getting a lot covered.
Yeah, but if you guys have topics, you've got guests that you want us to cover, shoot me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com. Put in the subject AK Korner. That way it's easy for me to categorize and find a little bit later. And we'll do our best to cover the topics, answer the questions, have the guest on that you want. And our guest joining us today is no stranger to the show. He got a brief sampling of it at the 2019 SHOT Show, where we got a lot of the greatest minds in the AK industry to join us for one of those episodes. And it is John Houlton with M13 Industries. John, welcome in.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going really good, man. I've been excited to do this one. I've been getting more and more into the smithing side of firearms, and the AK just kind of scares me a little bit.
They can be a little intimidating.
A little intimidating just because of the barrel is the only thing that really intimidates me is the barrel. Having the press. If it wasn't for that, I would be in it 100%. I'd be all in on it. But until you guys, and hopefully you can make me feel a little more comfortable about it during this episode, maybe direct me to a good press or something like that I could use for my own personal use, I'll be, balls to the wall, all in 100%.
I'm sure, like Brian, he's got quite a few modified presses. You buy them and then make a bunch of tooling for them is what usually happens.
This is true. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
there is a tried and true recipe that John and I may disagree on a little bit about, but I think in the main we're going to be saying the same things for getting started, and that would be a fun, that'd be a fun conversation to have, because getting people unscared, as long as they understand that they may ruin the gun they're working on. If you got that old beater of some company name I'm not going to mention, but the one that you don't feel good shooting, rehabbing one that may or may not belong in the dump as a better place for it, that's a real good place to start.
There you go.
Yeah, we've all brutalized at least one gun, have messed it up in our lives when we first started, going, I could do this. Wow, maybe I shouldn't have touched that.
Big time.
That's kind of my fears. Like, I'll get into it and I'm like, okay, I feel very comfortable with this, and I know all the parts and everything, but it's just that barrel. Once I get into anything with the barrel, then I just kind of want to back off, and I'm very hesitant on it. But anything else, triggers and all the other parts and hand guards, because that's around the barrel. That's a little intimidating if I'm going to something like a Merc or not a standard hand guard. That kind of intimidates me a little bit also. But we've got you guys on to get me past that, to get our listeners past that, to get them into doing their own smithing to a certain extent. But there's always, you get to that point where you're going to have a professional smither involved. And M13 Industries does an excellent job with their Kalashnismithing. So, John, tell us a little bit about M13, the history of your company, how you got into it, and what all you guys specialize in.
I got into it, just like most people, really interested in the platform, saw how very rugged it was, I've always been a tinkerer and messing with things, so why not mess with guns? So I started tinkering with my first one, which didn't turn out the greatest. It's the gift for everything. So you built that one up first, learned a lot of tricks and stuff. Then every time you do something, you want to do a little bit more. Hey, what if I did this? What if I did that? Since I already had access to a lot of machine work and machining tools, it just kept rolling to where I tried more and more different things. As a company, we started back in 2012. Officially had a guard license, and we specialize in the AK platform, doing everything from kit builds to barrel chops to trigger jobs, kind of whatever somebody needs. And then we also go beyond just regular AKs into RPDs, DP28s, 1919s, Stens, Sterlings, Brens, all sorts of different platforms. We stay away from the pistols. I'm not a pistol guy. I don't get into your Glocks and everything, and I don't do bolt guns. I don't do hunting rifles and stuff like that. Just really wasn't my niche.
Yeah.
But we do pretty much everything else. I mean, the ARs, YouTube's for that. I don't really get into that stuff. But I specialize in the fun, what I consider the fun guns.
Yeah. Well, the AK, compared to the AR, I mean, if you look at it, it looks like it's designed to be a simple gun. Easy,
very much so.
Easy to fix, battle proven, easy to fix and maintain on the battlefield. And it was designed that way on purpose. It purposely built a battle rifle by the Russians, of course, Mikhail Kalashnikov back in 1947, which is what AK-47 stands for, the Avtomat Kalashnikova, 1947. But it's just that one part, for me. But talk about, and when we've done this on several other episodes, the key components of the AK-47.
You always have the holy trinity, which is the bolt carrier, and front trunnion. Those are the parts you can't skimp on. They have to be the best. That's what's holding the explosion 4 inches away from your face. So, everyone has their ideas of what is good, what is bad. In my opinion, I don't really care for the cast parts of those parts. They're not really properly made by some of the manufacturers out there. There might be other ones that I don't know about, but most of the stuff that I've seen that's cast is really poorly made. And when you start getting, now for the AK guy who goes out and shoots 400, 500 rounds a year, they'll probably live a really long time. For the guy who's going out and dumping 1,000 rounds a month, not so much. They're going to die. They're going to deform. You're going to start having problems. Headspace is going to grow, and it's just not going to live. So you got to keep that holy trinity of parts that are good. If any of those parts start to go wonkus, you're in for some trouble. Fast.
John, this is something I'm going to niggle with you here very, very slightly, but I think agree in the end. It's my personal feeling that it is possible for a casting to be very good. However, it seems that those who cast generally, and this isn't a blanket statement, but in general, it seems to be a correlation between people that are cutting corners elsewhere who use cast stuff. Do we generally agree on that?
Agree. You can make a cast part good. Look at crankshafts and motors. Most of them are cast, and they produce thousands of horsepower. Can hold it just fine, but they're doing it with quality in mind. Hey, we're going to make a good quality part. We're not going to skip any corners. And the problem, unfortunately, a little bit with the AK world is people still have the mentality of, okay, AKs are cheap, so nobody wants to spend over $1,000 on an AK. That's bad. That's great. In 1990, we're not there anymore. You don't buy gas for $1 a gallon. It doesn't happen that way. We're all $3, $4 a gallon. So people kind of got to get that mentality out of their mind of AKs are cheap. They're cheaper in some forms, ammo, one thing, but they're not cheap guns. If you make them good with quality parts, they're going to be a little more expensive than the cheap junk that's kind of out there. And like I said, if you're shooting only a couple rounds a month, you'd be fine. But if you're really working this gun, you're going to have issues. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's 4 inches away from your face exploding. I want quality stuff.
Totally. Yep, we agree on that, and we don't build on anything cast here in terms of the Holy Trinity. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's another good thing. You're talking about the explosions that close to your face. All the parts on the AK are large. They're larger, bulkier, more reliable parts than the smaller ones that you get on the AK. So you're typically going to have less, I guess, maintenance issues with the AK versus the AR. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, they're very robust. I mean, you only have technically 2 locking lugs really that are working, and man, they withstand that over and over and over, explosions going on, and they work just fine. So I mean, it's amazing. Something pretty much so simple works so well.
Yeah, you got those large parts, and you've got a lot of extra space in there. So when they're out on the battlefields in these dusty, dirty conditions, getting all that goop and gunk in there, then they've got more room to, for those big parts and everything to be moving around, less malfunctions.
Yep. They can handle a lot more gunk getting in there than some of the other, platforms out there.
Yeah.
John, I ought to send you this. I've got a few pics of it. I had a gun come back. Customer complaint was that the firing pin was stuck to the rear. And I was like, it could be that we got a, bad heat treat on that one firing pin or something, and it got swaged, right? That's one possible failure mode there. So I'm like, hey, just send me the bolt, or here's a shipping label. I'll get it squared away. So immediately when I open up the bag, I see in the firing pin channel, I see what looks like a chunk of primer that had been punched out like a circular chunk. And I'm like, I think I found a problem. Well, I tear the bolt down, and there's at least 30 of those chunks of primer in there that had been hammered flat, and they were all squished flat as pancakes between the firing pin and the taper, right as the firing pin necks down to where it becomes a point. Just all in there was just covered in these. It looked like rolled out biscuits or something on the surface of the firing pin, and so all that extra space, both in the firing pin channel and in the receiver in general, allows a place for that shit to move and get out of the way of function. And it's a real testament, I think, to the AK, the design in general, that the gun continued to fire off what ended up being horrifically overpressured rounds. They were like 15, 20,000 PSI over spec. Wow. So it's amazing the gun didn't blow, and the headspace only grew by about 1,000. So I think he dodged a bullet on that one, but yeah, so. All that extra room sitting down in the AK receiver is a big deal.
Now, John, last time we talked was, like I said, the 2019 SHOT Show, and we had, like I said, some of the greatest AK minds in the industry. We had Brian was joining us. You were joining us. Who was the guy from Century Arms?
That was Ken.
Yeah, Ken. He's not there anymore.
Ken Cross. He's at Primary Arms now.
Yeah, he's at Primary.
Still doing the Lord's work. We love Ken.
Yeah, and then of course the godfather of the AK-47, we had Jim Fuller join us on that episode too. I was wanting to do a reunion for this year. Of course, COVID screwed everything up.
Yeah.
And when you were on, you were talking about some things that you guys, some guns that you guys were working on. You're talking about the Mini Monster. Are you guys still working, doing the Mini Monsters?
Well, yeah. They're very popular as a pistol, obviously, because the wonderful arm braces that we're allowed to have. They work great. They're a fun little gun, 7.25-inch long barrel, mostly 7.62, a couple 5.45s out there. And they're just a fun, they make great flamethrowers. It's a very fun gun.
Talk about the design in those. What you're putting on them and whatnot.
So the standard package on one of those is like I said, 7.25-inch barrel. Runs the JMac Customs GBC 13 gas block combo. Usually has their LAF brake on there because it's loud and flashy, or loud as We run an SLR handguard because they were nice enough to work with us and make a gas tube assembly on there. We run the SabreWorks KOP, which allows us to run a longer 1913 rail on top, gets the sight picture a little bit wider because it is such a short gun. And run on most of them, run the ALG, the Krebs Customs Safety, And in the back, it kind of matters. Most of them have a folding stock, a 4.5 millimeter folding stock mechanism, so you can put an arm brace on there. Or later on, if you SBR it, you could throw a triangle on there, or one of the other adapters. We have a couple fixed stock ones out there, but most of them are folders. And just makes a fun little platform. It's obviously, we're not going to be shooting 300 yards with the gun, but it's it's a good close range, fun gun to shoot.
Yeah, and it's the mini monster.
Yep, because it's the first one we built was actually for Ashley over at JMac Customs. We built one that you see there for her. We were kind of going by Justin, talking to him about it, and he was like, "Yeah, let's build one." So we built one, debuted it at Red October, I think 2018, I think it was, and people just loved it. It was because it's it threw a huge fireball out. It was very cool. We built one of ours as a post sample right afterwards. That's the one everyone's seen a million videos of, the orange gun. And it's with that LAF brake, it is a fire thrower, and it just looks hella cool. It's a fun gun to shoot. One of my favorites.
LAF, I like that.
Yeah, when you shoot that thing, everyone swears it's some giant cannon gun, and they come around the corner and they're like, "That's only 7.62." Yeah, that's all it is.
I mean, they're loud enough without any enhancements.
Yeah.
If you're at the range, somebody shooting an AK, they would
very much so.
Put one of those on there. Now, you also were talking about the OSC 13.
Yep, that is our kind of competition, suppressor ready, kind of everything kind of rifle. So it's built as a 14.5 pin and welded to 16 inches. So it's 16-inch overall barrel length. Most of the ones we build are also with the JMac gas block on there, and also their RD4C for the Sandman. So it takes the Dead Air Sandman series of suppressors on there, the key mods. In the suppressed version, it comes with a K&S gas piston. That way you can adjust it to whatever kind of load you happen to be running. Also, it runs the SLR Rifleworks handguard and gas tube, KOP on there as well. So you have whatever option you like for your optic. And then in the back, it's ALG trigger, Krebs Custom Safety. And in the back, again, most of them have folders because that seems to be what most people like. But there are fixed stock versions of those as well.
Okay, very good. And they just go to your website?
Yeah, that gives it on our website. Just kind of gets people like, I might run a suppressor one day, but I'm not sure. This way they could still run the gun fully well without a suppressor on it. Mm-hmm. And eventually if they want to, or they get their suppressor out of jail, they can throw the suppressor on there, go shoot, and they're happy as a lark.
Yeah, happy as hell. You can say that.
Yep.
You can say that on this show. Speaking of jail, I've got one in jail right now. It's one of the suppressor projects. Is that what it's called, Brian?
Stealth project.
Stealth project suppressors.
Yep. Yeah.
That I'm anxious to get out. So I got a notification from the silencer shop today, said that the money has been deposited into the government's account. So
the check cleared. Great. That's a good sign.
That means at least they're processing it.
Yeah. Now I got a question on that. Now, if you don't pass a background check, or for some reason it comes back, and they don't approve you, do you get your money back, or do they just keep that $200?
No, they keep $200. Sorry, so sad, too bad.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that. I didn't know how that worked. So.
The other thing is technically the receiving SOT that took the suppressor. If they're nice, they might work with you and either sell the suppressor on your behalf, or if silencer shop or something like that will take it back. Kind of matters each one. But technically, they don't have to. It's theirs to hold on to.
Wow.
So, I mean, I've heard of some SOTs just saying, well, you didn't pass. Too bad. It's our suppressor now.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. We've had two people that had issues. One got his resolved. It took 4 years, but he eventually got his suppressor.
4 years?
4 years, because he failed it the first time, and then they had to do a bunch of paperwork or something to figure out what the actual issue was on his. And then he cleaned it up or whatever. Additional year of wait you do, for your suppressor. And he got it. And he was happy as a lark. He was kind of, he sold the gun he was for originally, but at least he's got it now.
Patient.
Yeah.
He's a patient man. More patient than I would have been, definitely. Holy cow. Well, hopefully everything's okay with mine. I don't foresee any issues. But I was just always curious about that because I've never had any problems. I was like, if you do that and you don't pass,
it's a donation. This is the way you got to look at it. I'm giving them a $200 donation.
Yeah. I got words for them.
Yeah. Well, as I was told by them, they said the $200 doesn't cover anything. It's a way they basically lose money every time they do one of these transactions. So I proposed to them. I said, okay, since it takes 8 months to a year to get your paperwork back, what if you told people for $400 we will give you an answer in a week or 30 days even? I said I can almost guarantee you people would do that. And all you do is you fast track them. You get more people in there. At $400 a transaction, people would do it.
Don't give them an excuse to charge us more money. Come on.
Yeah. They're all about money. That's what runs the world. I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your background, John?
I'm a self-taught gunsmith. I taught myself everything I know. My actual background is I actually come from the automotive racing world. I have another business that specializes in high-performance transmissions and transaxles and the shock absorbers on off-road vehicles.
Oh, nice.
That's where my heavy background comes into that world. So I started a company back in, it would be 1995, that specialized in the race car transaxles used in a lot of the off-road, drag, road race, sand vehicles. And we took from Volkswagen, and we saw the evolution from Volkswagen into Mindiolas to Fortons to Albins, getting bigger and bigger transmissions because the world of horsepower went from guys who had 65 horsepower to now they're at 2,500 horsepower. And you got to build a transmission that'll withstand somebody who got a few too many beers in themselves and are trying to upstage their buddy because he's got 2,300 horsepower. Right. So I have another company that also deals in those as well. So a lot of my heavy mechanical knowledge and of what metals work and machining and stuff like that comes from that.
Okay, well, that's interesting. So a lot of our lead heads are motor heads also. So give that company a plug. What's the name of it?
That is RC Trans.
RC Trans. Have you done anything for like a 97 GMC Yukon?
No, but we kind of specialized in the transaxles.
Okay.
Which is basically the transmission and rear engine one.
Okay.
Used a lot on the rear engine vehicles, or we have some front engine ones, but mostly for rear engine ones.
The old lead sled needs a facelift, so that's what I drive. I got a 97 Yukon. I'm thinking about doing some upgrades to it. So
nowadays the LS series motors are plug and play. So if it's going to need a motor, the LS series motors are. I mean, it's literally you buy a kit now. They have self-learning computers, or you can get the computer already burned for the motor, so it'll run just fine.
Yeah.
And then they have self-learning computers, so it will tune the final bit of your fuel injection for whatever area you're in the most.
Okay.
Obviously, higher elevation needs a little different, lower elevation a little different, but it'll tune itself, and it's insane how these things you could have built-in rev limiters, change the fuel processes, everything in these motors now.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You literally buy a kit, and you can even from Chevy, you can buy motors from Chevy with a warranty, and it's 600 horsepower from warranty, and Chevy will warranty it.
Nice.
It's crazy.
Hey, you can't beat that. I think my engine's good right now. I haven't had really any problems with the engine. It's got about 320,000 miles on it. I mean, there's probably some things that could be tightened up a little bit, but
until it dies, keep running.
Yeah, I'm going to run it till the wheels fall off, definitely.
Yeah.
So, with that kind of background, I think that was part of our conversation that we had in Vegas during that episode. If you lead heads want to go back to that episode, it is episode 336. We did that. It was released February 17th, 2020, but we did it during the SHOT Show. That happened in January. But we were kind of just talking about the state of the AK industry, where the AK, how it kind of evolved into the United States and how it's grown and become more and more popular to where it is today to kind of what we were seeing it in the future, kind of. Yeah. And, the future is here, I believe, because looking at all the the things that you're able to do with the AK now that, you couldn't do 6 years ago.
5 years ago even.
Yeah, it's amazing, the advances that and it's due to people wanting it, demand. It's due to demand.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even like combo blocks. When this all first came out, you had either run a Bulgarian or Russian combo block, or if you lucked out, you could get one of the Rifle Dynamics ones. That was it. That was the only choices you had. Or you could get the Romanian one too, but that was pretty much it. Now you've got Rifle Dynamics, you got JMAC Customs, Definitive Arms, Meridian Defense. You got a lot of choices now, which makes it nice because you can really tune, make the gun what you want.
yeah,
You like the little one, put it on there. You want the adjustability for your gas system, there you go. You got choices there. You want something more futuristic? Wow, there you go. You got something there. So I mean, there's so many more choices. That's really nice to have all these choices nowadays. Back, like I said, in the beginning, you only had one.
variety.
Yeah.
Variety is the spice of life, baby.
Yep.
Definitely. Brian, do you have any questions that you want to ask John?
I got a boatload here, but
We'll get to the listener questions in just a minute.
yeah, no, I think that's, given that I personally have known John for so many years now, he's taught me a lot and was one of the first people that I really interacted with in the industry. So
That's another thing that kind of during that interview that we did at SHOT Show was that, everybody in the AK kind of world seems like everybody knows everybody, or they've worked with them, or they studied under, somebody, and it just seems to be like a real tight knit community just within the AK itself. And even though you've got the competition out there for the most part, it seems like everybody really, I guess, appreciates and respects the other people that are in the industry. As far as
we all kind of do, everyone kind of a little bit specializes in certain things. So it's makes it a lot nicer because there's guys who do specialize one thing and guys specialize in another. And it makes it nice because most of us get along just fine with each other. Everyone's kind of amazed that we'd get together and we'd be talking, we were talking, and we were like blown away by this. Like, why would we hate each other? There's no reason to hate each other. There's so much work out there for us all to do that I don't want to do everybody's stuff. I can't. It's impossible. There's so much out there. I'd rather, let, somebody who wants something specialized that I don't do, go to the guy who does. That way you're really happy with your end product. There's some stuff that I just don't do.
And I would guess that the competition between the companies would be sourcing the parts, because there's only a finite resources for that, and with all the restrictions and the laws and everything that get changed and imposed on importation, it really hurts the American companies that are doing the AK-47. But again, that leads to the innovation, of us making our own parts. Brian at Occam prime example of that. It's like, if I really need this part, I can't get it. Well, put the American ingenuity into it and build your own parts. So eventually, I think we're going to see more and more companies to where we're not even relying on the foreign companies anymore for the parts. We can get them all sourced here in the United States.
Yeah, which blows my mind because I know of 2 companies for sure that have built the holy trinity of parts in the United States. And, they're not the usual one that we all know of. And it kind of baffles me that they haven't come to market with them. It's like now is the perfect time to do it.
Now is perfect.
Here you go. We've got these parts. How many do you want? I mean, they would sell. I mean,
right. I'm
sure Brian's got the same problem getting parts. When you order parts, I need 50. Well, we got 4. Okay, well, I'll take 4 then. Like we were talking earlier about the ALGs. We didn't have a non-stop back order. We just keep, every time a load comes in, we'd say, send us another 50 and we'll get 20. Give us another 50. Here's 40. We never get our full load of anything, whether it be triggers, barrels, any of those parts. We just don't get it. They just don't have it to ship.
Yeah. And I guess that's due in part to the parts that they need to make the parts. Some of those parts are probably imported as well.
Yeah. I'm sure, our Corona nightmare that's been going on this past year. It's affected. Everyone's got to remember it's worldwide, so it's affected. The stuff that's made in Poland or Romania or whatever. We're now getting the title that was then. Stuff that would have not affected us in 2020. Well, now they haven't worked in 2020, so now the stuff's not here for 2021.
Yeah, so we're getting the residual effects of that.
Yeah,
starting to feel that quite a bit, and then of course the new administration that's in, and the the threats of gun bans and all this.
The evil assault gun.
Give you an idea, like in terms of going out, to make all these parts, we have to buy them and then sell them, and the float that you need between the buying and the selling, like when you have a part made by a company, or even if I make the part myself, I'm out, typically like, just the billet for for one of our folding stocks is about $17. And so if I'm going to make 100 folding stocks, I've got to pay $1,700 just in the stock. And then I don't get to use that money. I don't get that money back out till the last stock is sold. And that could be, right now that's about a 5 to 6 week cycle between when I start cutting metal and then pretty much when we get them up on the website, they sell. But, things have to go to anodizing. It takes a week to get there, a week at the shop, a week to come back. So it all just stacks up. And, most companies, including my own, have to rely on commercial lenders for that capital. That float gets to be very, very large very quickly. Even for a small company like mine, it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you need for carrying all the inventory for all the parts. And commercial lenders want to invest money in the gun industry about as much as Epstein Island Part 2. And for all kinds of reasons, the legislative risk is bananas. The shareholder pressure and, woke pressure is huge. And so when people wonder why stuff costs a lot in the AK industry and why you can't ever get it. And that's a very large part of the problem is access to capital. We're chronically undercapitalized in this industry, even the big dogs. I can't speak for PSA, but I know that Century, you can't, when they sell a gun for $700, their margins have to be just razor thin. And so a lot of that $700 is they got to borrow from somebody. And so it's tricky.
I noticed we have the big problems. Like when we were having different parts made by machine shops, we were very careful not to mention it's for a gun. We'll say, well, what is this? Well, they always ask, what is this part for? It's a part. It's a widget. Well, what is it? It's a widget. Doesn't matter what it is.
It's none of your business.
Yeah, sometimes you say gun, they drop right there. We don't do gun parts, and it can be something nothing critical at all. The front sight, the post threaded with a little post on top. Not going to kill anybody. It's not going to do anything. You need those? Oh, we don't make those. We're not going to make those. So we don't make gun parts. No way. You're like, it's nothing that's going to do any damage. But they just automatically won't touch it because it's gun part.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I want to get into some of our listener questions, but before we do that, I've got a couple of my own. So what's some of the craziest requests that you've gotten from a customer to do to a customization to do to their AK or their RPD or whatever?
Number one, can you make my gun a machine gun? At least once a day, I get that one.
And you're like, I can, but I'm not going to.
Well, I also live with the same thing. I ask them, are you an SOT? And they say, what is that? Okay, well, that ends our conversation right there. I said, well, here's the thing. I don't want to do 10 years in Club Fed.
So, and you don't either. Yeah.
So I'm sorry. No, I won't do it. Or if I do it, it's going to become my gun and you're never going to see it again. So that is one of the biggest ones we get is, can you make my gun a machine gun? Or how much? It's like, nope, sorry. We just can't do that.
You do it like the tax stamp and say, send me your gun and then apply for your SOT. If you don't get it, you don't get your gun back.
Yeah, exactly. Never see this thing again.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I can see people doing that to a certain extent, but as far as like customization goes and like cosmetic type stuff, what's maybe some of the craziest requests you've had?
We'll get some people who want to change calibers. That's usually a kind of a crazy one. When they've got certain, up to 7.62, can you make it a 5.45? Yeah, but it's a lot of work. Some of the more timid things, we get a lot of, we do a lot of front end conversions where we'll cut the barrel length down, pin the muzzle device on, and put one of the gas block combos on there. You get a lot of those. And some people do and do not know what they want. And you try to tell them, hey, man, when I pin this on here, this suppressor mount is for kind of forever. So, kind of try a couple of suppressors out before you pin the sucker on there, or talk to your buddies or look it up and see what you like before I do this on here. Because once I put it on here, it's kind of a pain in the ass to get off.
Yeah.
Not easy. And we've had a lot of kit builds where people want us to build, a particular kit, parts kit they've found somewhere. Mm-hmm. Some are really exotic. We're like, wow, that's crazy. And some are, are kind of normal-ish. I got a Romanian MD63. Can you build it? But I want it to be battlefield pickup. Well, okay, what is battlefield pickup to you? I mean, you want it well? I was asked, do you want it well loved? Yes. Okay, no problem. Or do you want it to look like it's been in the bottom of a lake somewhere? That's there's that one too. Those are ones we get a lot of. Or can you build my gun? How much and what will it look like? So that's why we try to have so much up on our Instagram and Facebook, just so people get an idea of what stuff looks like.
Yeah.
Because you may have an idea in your mind, I want to do this. Okay, well, look at it and see if that's really what you want it to look like.
Now, when people send you parts kits, I'm sure you get all kinds of completeness, percentage of completeness of those parts kits. What do you do, and how do you address it with the customer? They send you one, and it's like 50% complete.
We do get a lot of those. We'll get in. I've got the parts kit. They bought let's say a Romanian MD63 kit. That's all they bought, though. They don't have the 922R compliant parts, which you got to have those 6 pieces. They don't have a barrel, don't have a receiver, and not really sure on what finish they want. So what we'll do is we'll get their parts kit in, check the usual things for problems. Is the gas block still good? Is the front sight okay? Trigger guard still there? The general pieces that we're going to work with and keep going. Are they good parts? We'll take the bolt, the front trunnion, and the bolt carrier apart, clean them real good, and magnaflux them, check them for cracks. Because dealing with old machine guns, sometimes things happen. We'll do that first, check everything out, and then call the customer and go, okay, here's your options. We can do this, or we can do this, and then see what they want. Mm-hmm. We can get a feel for them, because we get some people who are like, I just want an AK. Okay, well, it's kind of general, man. It's like saying I want a car. What tires you want on it? What paint job? And then they start, okay, yeah. So you kind of lead them and kind of direct people also. You kind of get a feel for what they like. When you start talking, well, what are you going to do with this gun? Is this going to be a wall trophy? Okay, well then let's build it as a wall trophy. Super pretty, heavy, woodwork, making it look as it would brand new. Okay, no, I want this to be a running gun. I'm going to make this my gun I'm going to shoot all the time. Okay, well there's different selection of parts we're going to choose for that. Obviously, you're not going to, if the wood has a couple little dings in it, you're not going to freak out because you're going to ding it more actually using the gun. And then we get the guy who goes, I'm going to beat the hell out of this thing. I don't even paint anything. Leave it as condition as the parts came. What parts are in the white are in the white. What parts are original finish? Leave them like that. I like that look. All right, whatever you want to do. We want you to be happy with your gun. So
sure.
We'll try to do whatever you want.
Very cool. How many parts kits would you say you're getting on average per year from people?
It kind of matters on what's come in. So last year was a little bit of a drop just because there wasn't a whole lot of parts kits available that have came in. This year we've seen a fairly large upswing. I think because of our current administration, people are like, oh, I've been sitting on that. I better build that thing so I have it.
Yeah. I think we're seeing a lot of that too, where people have, maybe years ago they bought a part kit or some parts kits, and due to the administration now, they're like, oh, I better go ahead and get these things built before it's too late. kind of thing. Are you seeing an influx from that maybe?
Yeah, I
this
kind
year?
of think that's what it is. They're sitting on them because we've had a gentleman who sent us quite a few in the past about 2 months-ish now, that he has original barreled kits, and they were very early, probably late 90s, maybe early 2000 kits. I mean, the barrels are in immaculate condition. The parts are like, they look like they took a new gun and cut it up. So it's like you see stuff like that, and it's amazing. You know, it's kind of cool to see that stuff because you're like, wow, you know, where was this thing sitting for all this time? It looks beautiful. And, you know, you kind of get bummed out. You're like, man, I wish I could have something like this. This is neat. And then you get something like they've been sitting in their backyard for the last 6 months and, you know, covered in mud and gut. You're like, oh God, wow, this thing's gnarly.
Yeah. That kind of ties into my next question. I was going to say, what's the most unique or maybe the most rare gun or kit that somebody has sent you? You were just like, you know, this is the golden, you know, the holy grail kind of thing. Have you received anything like that ever?
The PP-19s, those were definitely different. Those are those and that was a Bison. That was the one that has the cylindrical mag that goes underneath. 9x18.
Oh, sweet.
Little submachine gun. And then also the Vitius. We got a couple of those to build. And right now, the most popular one we get a lot of that's really cool to work on are the AK-12s. We do get a fair number of those still in, and they're kind of cool because you get to see the evolution that, you know, Russia has gone to make their gun work more for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally, you know, people look at it weird and look at it, they're like, that's kind of weird, but it's a pretty good platform. It's kind of a cool little gun.
So the AK-12 is the Russian 5.45 by 3.9.
Yep.
It's Kalashnikov, and it says it's the 5th generation of Kalashnikov rifles.
Yeah, they're a little different. I mean, they're a AK-74 with upgrades. You know, so the basic AK-74 is there, the same length barrel, same trunnion, same bolt, all that jazz. But they've changed the furniture, they've changed the brake. The brake actually, technically, the barrel actually sticks into the brake a little bit. It's kind of a weird setup. The barrel actually sticks into the brake. It really does. It is one of the best brakes I've shot of a factory style brake. It does its work. It controls flash, controls recoil. It's very manageable setup. And then the stock, they've put a folder stock on it, 5.5 folding stock, a more what I'd call AR-ish style stock on it. Mm-hmm. So you get a little bit, you know, it's adjustable. You get a little bit better cheek weld. And then they also have a more of a peep sight on them. They have the back end's a peep sight. So that's always good.
So these were released in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're seeing some of those come in?
Oh, yeah. We got one actually sitting over there.
Oh, do tell. Can you pull it off the wall?
I'll grab one. Hold on.
Since we're recording video, let's see it. So, Brian, have you ever dealt with an AK-12?
Let's see. Am I off mute? I am off mute. No, I have seen one, and by the time, you know, I'm in a little bit of a bubble right now where, you know, I don't touch a whole lot of guns that I don't make, and you know, by this time we do a thing that's very specific, and it's not that I'm not trying to learn about other designs, but you know, my interest in other designs out there has waned. You know, because obviously if I thought we weren't doing it right, I'd be doing something different.
Yeah, sure.
With the AK-12, it's in a direction that I don't personally find interesting, but that doesn't mean it's not great.
I don't have any personal experience with the AK-12. Now, they make a variant of that, the AK-15, which is the 7.62 by 3.9.
It's funny how Russia appears to be going back to 7.62 39 for particular tasks. Mm-hmm. You know, the turning cover into concealment is one thing that the 7.62 39 round does pretty well. The 74 does not. You know, the penetrating capability of the 5.45 round is limited for sure.
They also make a
awesome, wickedly nasty. If it actually,
so you get the picture up.
It's,
Let me go back to my. All right, show me. Gun porn, baby, gun porn.
Here we go.
Oh, nice.
This is AK-12. This is the brake that they have. It is. Let me pop it off real quick. It is a little bit different. Like I said, it sits a little recessed with it in the barrel. Get the thing come back on me here.
Now, for you listeners who are listening on one of the podcasts, you can go to our YouTube channel. We've got this on video, and you can watch.
Yeah. So the brake actually slips over here, and quarter rotates and locks in place.
Oh, nice.
So then they have a combo block. This is not an adjuster. Everyone goes, oh, it's adjustable gas block. That's not what this is. The gas tube on these are actually welded. I don't know if you can see it right here. They're actually welded to the front trunnions. So you can't take the gas tube off of this gun. So this is actually so that you can clean the gas tube out. Push a little D10 here, turn it, pulls off. You can actually clean out your gas tube.
Okay. Nice.
Like I said, they do have the peep sight right here. Catch it real good in there, but
Yeah, let's turn it that way.
peep sight. All right.
Yeah.
So I can just whacking myself in the face here. So they do have a peep sight on them.
Nice.
It is very similar to the RPK, so it does have adjustability for windage. Standard front end on them. Point it. Yeah,
you can go ahead.
It has a standard front sight on it. Like I said, they do have a folding rear trunnion. Does fold. This is a California model, so it doesn't actually fold. But you do have a regular folder, and it does have an adjustable style stock that'll slide in and out. So they do have some definite upgrades. It does have I think, a way better cheek weld to them than the regular setup. It does make a nice sight. But there's the pistol grip. I'm not a big fan of. It kind of looks a little. I think they went a little cheesy on it, but whatever. It's a cool rifle. It's very good. Like I said, it's very light recoiling.
And that pistol grip, is it just a standard AK grip where you can change it out with a?
Yeah, you can totally change this out if you want to. It just has they have two little D10s right here. You push these little suckers in, and it pops out. Whoops! Tries to pop out. I've done this before, I swear. So
under pressure.
Out. Yeah, and it has a oil bottle, which right here pulls off. So this would be your oil bottle.
Okay.
And then a little area here and an area here. So I've heard
batteries or
these
something.
Where you put your patches.
Okay.
For your cleaning.
Cleaning patches.
The cleaning kit on these is actually in the stock on these. If you pull this little lever right here down.
Little lever on the buttstock. Okay.
Slides.
Sliding up with the butt pad.
Kit is right there.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah.
They got a little bit different cleaning kit inside of them. It actually fits in the stock of these.
That's cool.
Kind of similar to the Chinese guns did it.
Yeah, very
John,
cool.
I've been informed that you're incorrect about the patch storage location in the grip.
Uh-huh.
That's where you keep your 2 spare cigarettes for if it's your last stand. Just saying. I know enough Russians. I feel very confident knowing the number of Russians I do that cigarettes go in there very quickly. Yeah.
Cigarettes and lighters.
Higher priority.
Absolutely.
They'll need that before they'll need to clean it,
Yeah.
They'll need to smoke long before they'll ever need to clean their AK. Well, that's cool. While you were going to get that, I was just saying that they've made other variants of that. The AK, what I say it was.
AK-15 was the next, I think, after this AK-12.
And then they got an AK-19, which is a 5.56 version.
Yeah. And from what I've heard, it's all, the rumor mill is the reason why everyone's like, well, why'd they go to 5.56? I'm like, well, think of what is now the most prolific round out there.
Yeah.
Largest arms dealer in the world happens to carry an American flag. So we produced a lot of ammo. There's a lot of ammo out there and a lot of guns that shoot 5.56. It's easier to get ammo if you're on the combat field.
That's right. Take your enemy's ammo. Use your enemy's ammo. Definitely. Very cool, man. I appreciate you showing me that. I haven't really, like Brian, I haven't really paid a lot of attention to those, the newer version to those. So how do you get those?
I'm not exactly sure how people are getting the kits in because technically this is a Russian kit. So I'm not exactly sure how they're getting them here. Somebody's figured out how to get them here, though.
Okay.
There's import. I don't know who's importing them, but We've gotten quite a few of them sent to us to build up.
Nice.
A lot of them are missing or have a severely damaged front trunnion. So they've been demilled in the Russian terms. They'll basically they'll go in and bore out the left-hand locking area of the front trunnion. They remove the bolts are all missing. And then the barrels have multiple holes drilled in them and usually a piece of metal jammed down them and stuffed into them really bad.
Oh,
the old
wow.
octagon piece that just beat down the barrel. So I think that's their way of demilling them over there.
I got you. Well, very cool. I think that's a good lead in. Let's get to some of our listener questions. And the way we do it here on the show, Leadheads, and for you new people, is we have giveaways. We've got some giveaways from Seal1, seal1.net. They've got a nice cleaning package here for their CLP product. It's a great product, especially for the AK because it helps prevent corrosion, but it definitely will clean your gun beyond belief. Seal1.net. We're going to give away one of these to one of you listeners. We're going to give away, like I said earlier, or last episode, we're going to give away another ALG AK trigger, one of you lucky lead heads, and we're going to give away a dump tray from Mission First Tactical. These work great for smithing also. So when you're taking your guns apart and parts and pieces, go in there great. I've been using mine quite a bit for my pieces, especially when I clean it or if I'm working on them, doing some smithing.
All those pesky little springs and things.
Right, yeah. Really holds up.
I'm trying to be really good on the milling machine, actually. I'll put my measurement tools that can't get wet in the small side, and then all of the bigger gauges and wrenches and that kind of thing on the other side. Stone, a polishing stone, that kind of thing. And that whole thing just comes into the mill with me, and I really like them.
Yeah, the Mission First does a really good job on these, and the ink is injected into the material, the Kydex there, so it's not going to scratch off or come off or anything. Very resilient. So one of you lead heads is going to get one of those also.
I gave mine a solvent test today, and I was a little curious to see whether it would live, but it was all gunked up, and I was cleaning up over there. And normally our coolant is pretty good at dissolving plastic, and it didn't do that at all.
Oh,
and
nice.
And then I hosed it down with denatured alcohol pretty heavily, and that normally gets rid of all kinds of pigments and inks and nothing. So yeah, can confirm the ink is really in there.
Very cool. So there you go. So they're dump trays, which in the past we've been using them for EDC type stuff, just dumping our pockets and throwing our stuff, on our counters. But we found another use for them for us smithers out there, gunsmithers. Great for holding our parts and whatnot. So there you go. One of you lucky lead heads is going to get one of that also. And the way you win these is you participate. When we say post questions. So we're going to do that right now. So three of you lucky lead heads are going to win some prizes this episode. And I think John might be giving away a M13 t-shirt also.
There we are.
There you go. So 4 of you lucky lead heads this episode. But you got to be engaging. You got to participate. And Instagram, Facebook, you can shoot me emails, talkinglead@gmail.com. That's how we pick our winners. So let's start with Instagram, Brian, and just kind of peruse through there. I think you've been eyeballing it. Pick out a couple of good questions.
I just messaged you guys a Google Doc with all of the questions pasted in it. And up at the top here is one from Hennessy Arms asking if they can borrow our bolt lapping machine so they don't have to do it by hand on their current build. And that's absolutely a thing we can do as a custom service. So Hennessy Arms, get in touch with us. Yeah, we can do that. Second question, what rivet tools would you recommend when working on AKs? Are Toth tools good? John, what are your favorite my suspicion is you built a lot of your own tooling, but of the Forbus and Requiem and Toth, offerings out there, and AK Builder offerings, what are your favorite things for, let's say, the front trunnion to start with?
If I was to start off and I wasn't going to do heavy production, I personally would have bought the AK Builder tools. I think that has worked. I bought those when I first started, and they've worked really well. We still use one of the AK Builder Rivet Smashers for kind of our custom stuff when it's not doing one of our, again, we do a lot of. We use those, and we've had really good luck with them.
Yep.
They're a good quality made part. You can build. I mean, if you're not, like I said, you're not doing production or something like that, not doing it for a living, it'll hold up just fine.
Yep.
It'll work fine.
Yep. And then on trigger guard, what's your favorite tool for riveting the trigger guard? Ditto?
Well, I've only had one we made, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I've heard that the AK Builder one works real good, and also there's I guess a guy on one of the AK files that made one that's supposed to work real good. But unfortunately, I made mine way back when because there wasn't anything else available.
Sure.
This was a related question. It says, I received a virgin trigger guard with my parts kits. How would I drill the hole for the mag catch?
Yeah.
There's no easy way of doing it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. You want to do it first, if that makes it. Don't wait till the gun's all the way together to figure out where you're going to put that hole. We made a fixture for it, and what I would recommend is buying the one that's available in stock right now on Arms of America and forgetting about it, because that whole location is incredibly precise in where it needs to be. There's less than 20 thousandths of wiggle room in where you put that hole. And so, yeah, I would just buy one for $30 and not learn how to do that, because you need the commie print to even know what the right answer is. I know that some folks will cut an old trigger guard apart, and then they use that part of the trigger guard as the template for where they center punch their whole location. But that's a nasty question, or nasty problem. Good question.
Nasty problem. Let's see. We've got lots of questions here.
There's
tips and tricks on trigger swaps to make them go smoother.
Yeah, a parallel question, which is one that John and I can answer definitively, is any suggestion, this is from EKR 8630, any suggestions on dealing with a sticky bolt carrier and ALG trigger? And this is something that we see on about 30% of production guns. I suspect John sees it as well a fair amount.
Yeah. They have to check first off if it's actually hitting the trigger itself, the little hook that comes up and grabs the hammer. I've had bolt carriers slam right into that sucker and jam up. So he needs to check that place. And they'll also get hung up, like Brian knows, they'll get hung up on the hammer when you charge them all the way back. They'll get caught between the bolt and bolt carrier, that little valley there, get caught up in there and won't ride over.
Yep. And so we, on that trigger hook, it looks like kind of a bird, kind of like a bird head or a shark fin sticking up. You know, a bird head if it's like a woodpecker. And what we do is we roll the back of that point into kind of a pigeon head. So you take that point that's sticking up and put a really good radius on it. Like, we're taking away, gosh, it's got to be, a 2.5 millimeter radius or something by the time we're done. And if you look carefully down the action, you'll see where it hits. And if you bevel it on the inside, the side that faces the bolt carrier as well, that is the recipe we use to get around that. So yeah, in terms of general, and the other thing I'd say on that is people really need to mind, it's a maximum of 0.008 of an inch between, there's a stupid roll pin that they put in the kit that you have to press into the trigger. And you really want to make sure that roll pin is bottomed out, because if it travels after you've been shooting the gun a little bit, it'll decrease your safety margin pretty markedly. And so you need a piece of 0.007 shim to make, or 8/1000ths if you want to play on the edge, that you slide between this post and the safety to make sure that it's adequately tight. You basically want, I'd be curious on John's thoughts of this, but the way we do it is that we leave it touching when we file it into spec. It's very slightly sticky when it leaves our shop because everything is softer than that roll pin, and the roll pin machines into the safety so that you get a perfect, 1 thou, 2 thou slip fit there by the time it's been actuated 50 times or something. John, how do you attack that safety tuning issue?
Sure, you got to, like you said, you got to make sure that roll pin's all the way down, because we get a lot of people who they build it and put that roll pin in there and they just tap it down just a little bit and then file it down, saw it down, whatever. And like you said, a couple times you squeeze hard on that trigger, you just push that roll pin down into the trigger, and now it'll fire unsafe, which is not a good day. So
Not
what we
a
do,
good day.
we'll knock it all the way down in there, and then we have basically kind of the same thing, a shim that will slide in there and make, as long as that will clear just right when we go on safe, we consider it good to go. If it doesn't, what's nice is ALGs come with 2 of those little guys. So if you cut a little too far, you can always change it out and put another one back in there, because, or if you don't get it right, you can fix yourself. You're not screwing up. So it's best to make that, like Brian says, make that thing as tight as you can, because they do wear in. Metals do deform.
That question came to us from our buddy Aura Aplanalp. Remember him, Brian?
Oh yeah. He's a customer of mine. We actually just shipped him a gun today.
Oh,
so
nice.
Thank you for your business.
He goes by Sack Archer on Instagram. Oh, there you go. Thanks for that question. Here's a good one right here. This is from DMAC0159. David McDonald. Says, John and Brian, have either of you seen a Bulgarian AK-74 side optic rail or any side rail that was out of spec? I have one that I can't get the RS Regulate mount onto.
Absolutely. I know for sure there is an out of spec rail that's out there. We've run into it. We put one actually onto a customer's gun. You got the RS Regulate on there. You can tighten as much as you want, and it just slides right off. It is, unfortunately, there are some crap out there.
Now, one thing that he could use to maybe limp along there is to get a tape, and the tape that I would use is called, the trade name for it is Kapton. It's a DuPont product. It also goes by polyimide or polyamide tape. You can find it on eBay cheap. Its compressibility is exceedingly low. It's very hard tape. And it comes in 1 mil, 3 mil, 5 mil, and that's thousandths of an inch thicknesses. I'd find some of the thicker stuff, like 3 to 5 mil, and very carefully put a couple layers of that on both sides of the dovetail and smooth it down so there's no air pockets. And my suspicion is that you'll be able to build up enough thickness there and this for the listener, John, John has all kinds of ways of making things work, but for an end user, either a piece of metal shim, like some flashing or some metal tape, I'd minimize the amount of adhesive and just shim that thing in. And I know that sounds hokey, but my suspicion is that it'll hold zero pretty well.
John?
Unfortunately, I changed it out because we had a problem with that, and we just changed it out with another, actually a Romanian one, and it fit. We checked it beforehand, and it fit a lot better because that thing was way out of spec. We were actually going to try kind of the same thing, actual feeler gauge material.
Sure. Yep.
That is a spacer, and it just, when we're at 13 thousandths, we're like, okay, that's too much. The sucker's too far away.
Absolutely. And when in your shop having the ability to, my suspicion is it took you less than an hour of shop time to replace that rail once you had decided to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next question. Next question comes from. Sorry. Are you done? You done answering it?
Just wanted to give a quick plug that John's prices are really reasonable. I think you should charge more.
Well, here's a plug for both of you. Casey Loftus says, not a question, just a thanks. My first experience with Occam Defense Solutions was ordering an RST and having M13 Industries install it on my Draco. I look forward to this show. Casey.
Oh.
There you go.
Casey's whacked a bunch of deer with that RST.
Yeah, rub it in.
yeah. Unlike other Tennesseans are on the show right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's turkey season right now, though.
There you go.
Take some shotguns out. Here was an interesting question here for John. It had to do with 6.5 Grendel. Where did it go?
While you're looking at
is.
that one, I'm going to loop around
Yeah.
and clean up on a couple here. People are wondering about Toth tools and whether they're any good. I haven't personally used them, but another person is asking about bolt cutter rivet setters, and it's kind of the same thing. I know people that build fine AKs who use bolt cutters, and I know a bunch of people that don't. And I'll quote Jim Fuller as to why he doesn't, in that the squish is coming in at an angle, and the angle of squishing is changing, and that he didn't like that. And I happen not to be a giant fan of it either. We use another method, but the AK Builder, to put a button in it, I think John and I both think highly of the AK Builder set for getting started.
When the angle of your dangle is squishy against your wishy, then you...
It has some bad days.
That's funny. Yeah, I found that one. So this was from Morgan Simpson 127. Says, I have seen some of the rifles M13 is made in 6.5 Grendel. I was wondering what bullet guide as well as magazine work well with the cartridge for reliability without basing the build off of a Sega 6.5 rifle already built. I love the idea of updating the ballistics of the AK with a more modern bullet design.
Haven't done one in 6.5. We've done some in 6.8.
6.8?
In 6.8. So it's very similar to a 5.56 style setup. I mean, you just have to slightly modify a 5.56 bullet guide, and it'll go right in there just fine. Mags, obviously they make 6.8 mags, so there's no issues there. But it was not that hard. The barrel, you're going to have to make your own barrel. Nobody makes a AK, 6.8 barrel. They just don't exist. So you're going to have to modify. Like what we do is we modify an AR barrel because luckily an AR barrel is quite a bit larger in the training area, so you have plenty of room to turn it down to match your stuff. So in the 6.5 though, I mean, you fully could do it. You would, the mag would be an issue. You're going to have to do a little futzing to get it to sit far enough back. The bullet guide, I don't think would be an issue. If you ran, I think a 7.62 bullet guide would actually work best. You probably have to do a little bit of polishing on the feed ramp a little bit. I think it'd be just fine.
Cool. Brett, no, not Brett. Let's see. It was Kenneth H. McGee says, besides a hammer and shovel, what are the best spare parts to keep around for repairs on AKs? It's a common question.
Well, for what we carry in our range bag, which I'm sure Brian has a thing in it with him, we carry a spare firing pin. Obviously, we carry quite a few different versions of it, but a spare firing pin for your gun, recoil spring, hammer spring, disconnector spring. If you have an ALG and you're running the little secondary spring, one of those. And that's really about it. I mean, if you're beating the gun that bad that you're breaking major parts, then you got issues. All that stuff will be a quick fixer-upper. This broke and I need to shoot it real quick. You can get spare extractors, and extractor springs wouldn't be a really bad thing to have. Those do usually kind of give a little bit of warning they're going bad before they completely take a dive. But if you're not 100% sure, definitely throw one in your range bag. Wouldn't be the couple ounces and the couple dollars well worth the hassle not having to drive all the way back home to get it.
Brian? And
my answer on that would be a second AK, just because of the same reasons that John mentions, that there's very little in the way of major things that goes wrong on an AK. It's much more likely that something you've put on the gun is going to come unloctited. So I may answer the question slightly differently, actually, in that to the degree that you've put things with screws onto the AK, all of that stuff is far more likely to go south on you than the core functioning of the gun itself. That said, John has far more experience on what breaks on an AK because of all of the full auto experience that he has with being in a unique geographical region. He gets to see, that's far and away a heavier wear load on an AK than what I typically see on our side.
Okay. Good answers. Good answers. Lots of questions. You guys really lit it up this episode. Lots of good ones, too. Here's one from Tandem Dooley. It says, please explain why the use of a press over one of the bolt cutter rivet setters is a better option.
That's that squishy angle squish question. And there's other reasons I don't like them. You want to be tensioning and not that you can't do this with the bolt cutter, but when you rivet, one of the most critical things, the first critical thing to get right is to have all of the metal surfaces in intimate contact with each other, so there's no big gaps, and that the hole that the rivet sits in is ever so slightly countersunk to accommodate. And I don't mean on the swell neck rivets that need a big countersink. I mean on the front rivets on the front trunnion. There's a little bit of a radius on the inside edge of a rivet, and that radius has to go somewhere. And so giving the tiny chamfer or countersink to the sheet metal there is a big deal. And then most rivets are bent. And so if your hole is precisely 5/32 or 4 millimeter, often the rivet will kind of sit up and there will be an air gap, and you kind of got to egg it out just ever so slightly to get that rivet head to sit dead flush. When you get all of that right, then the squish method you use isn't all that critical, but it's easier to put a little spring. Well, normally the receiver occasionally wants to open up like a mouth or a taco, opening up a little bit away from the trunnion. Not always, it just depends. But when you're in the AK Builder press, what you can do is it stabilizes the work so that you can get at it and you can press down after you've got this little, there's a finger that reaches in where the barrel goes to squish the rivet. That's called the shop tail. And what you want to be doing is pressing with your offhand, the one that's not holding the lever for the press. You want to be pressing down very sharply, and even better, have both hands on the work and have somebody else start the rivet and set the rivet for you. And so with the rivet, with the Toth tools, you have two hands tied up with the squeeze, plus you also have to stabilize the work, and you still need to squish the sheet metal against the trunnion so that the set is good. And so those are some of the reasons that I really like the AK Builder setup there.
I agree. You only got two hands, and you start getting too many things going. And that, like you said, is that nothing more frustrating than getting it all done. You're like, I got it all crushed. And you look, and I can see error underneath my rivet head. Perfect. I'll be drilling that out now.
Yeah. Drilling rivets sucks, and it's not an easy skill if you have a fixture for it. It's not a big deal. But with the AK Builder, they make drilling jigs, and none of them are all that awesome. And so there's a real chance to wreck your gun right at the starting line there by not getting that.
Speaking of the rivets, Austin Whalen wants to know, what riveter would you recommend?
The actual rivets themselves, or
Riveter? What Riveter would you recommend? I guess the
tool
that installs the rivets.
Well, if he's like I said before, if you're not going to do a bunch of them, then I think the AK Builder stuff would be the least expensive and get you the best results from what if you're just going to do. I'm going to build 5 kits a year. You'll have great results with that. They'd hold together just fine, and you're not going to be fighting yourself to work on the gun, which is a pain in the butt.
Are either of you familiar with the RS Regulate BM1?
I have not.
Okay, then we'll skip that question. Sorry, Sinister Fist. Not Aura. Orpheus Barrows. Orpheus Barrows. Have you ever used a Bullpup converted AK? I've seen the kits, but have never seen a true AK Bullpup.
Yes, we actually had a kit that was a brought-in kit that was designed to go to an AK-74 side folder, and it converted to a Bullpup. Little different feeling, very, very squishy trigger. Very squishy. Pull it, you kind of like, okay, then it goes off. All right, So that seems to be the major issue with all the Bullpups I've seen is very squishy triggers. Apart from that, they shoot great. I mean, there's no real issues. They don't, as long as you're a right-hand shooter. If you're a left-hand shooter, probably not your best choice. But if you're a right-hand shooter, I had no problem shooting it. Just a really squishy trigger.
Yeah, the linkage is kind of the downfall on most Bullpups. It's just more parts. Every single one of them must have slop, just by the nature of, if you have zero slop, you get binding. And so that's just the nature of the beast until somebody figures out. I've toyed with electronic actuation on that kind of stuff because that's been most of my career is designing electronics. Mm-hmm. However, the idea of sticking electronics on a gun, I'm so not a fan of that idea.
Yeah, not at all.
For like all of the reasons, I like things that are reliable, and electronics just, everybody knows, like if it's one thing that's going to fail on a piece of electronic equipment, it's either a connector or a cable. And let's keep that stuff away from life-saving equipment unless we absolutely have to have it.
I just did a go ahead.
I said dirt and vibration, two things electronics hate.
Yeah, there you go.
And me, they don't like me either. I just did a 1022 Bullpup conversion with one of those Apache Defense conversion kits.
Those things are cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And like even on that one, it's still a good trigger of what he's done. The mechanism that he uses for the trigger connection, I think is as good as it can be. But there's still a little mush there even on that one. But I like Bullpups. I would love to have a Bullpup AK-47. So if you get one of those kits, come across one, let me know. I want it
for sure.
Edward Reagan Burton, speaking of 22s, because it got skipped by Joe a couple of episodes back, what is the capability or likelihood of a 22 LR conversions or 22 LR dedicated AKs?
I know the Romanians had a trainer that was a 22. They made one basically for their, I guess probably because ammo was hard to get or something. They made a 22 trainer AK. Full size, looks just like one, except for it has a 22 barrel and bolt. Nice.
So it exists. It's in existence. Yeah. It's out there.
I don't have a complete gun. I got the kit somewhere. I picked up through the years and was one day built it for one of my kids. And because it looks just like a regular AK, except for it's 22.
Very cool.
I know. What was it? That there was a place that was selling them for a while. Now this was a while ago, so 10 years, but I'm not cheaper than dirt, but one of those kind of places was selling them for a while.
Okay.
I have a vague recollection of one. I have a vague recollection of seeing one as well. I mean, obviously the recoil spring and the bolt carrier would have to be lightened up massively to get one to work. And then there's all the issues of getting a 22 LR. I would never want to try and make one from scratch. Like, the problems are immense. It'd be sort of easier to dress up a 1022 to look like an AK than it would be, in my mind, to get an AK to run 22. Is that your feeling, John?
Yeah, there's people don't, until you get really into the heavy stuff of guns, people are like, oh, just change calibers. It's not that easy. There's a lot of science into this stuff. Just going from 7.62 to 9mm, it becoming a blowback gun. Holy Christmas, man! The springs and everything you got to figure out. That's you could spend years trying to figure it out and never get it right.
Oh yeah.
So I just Googled AK-47 22 LR, and American Tactical AK-47 RIA 22 LR rimfire rifle with wood stock, $279.99.
Wow, that's the cheapest way that I know of to get yourself into one.
Mossberg makes one, a Blaze 47 22 LR 10 round auto loading rimfire, $307.35. Sportsman's Outdoor Superstores. It's got them for sale right now. So
awesome.
Go snag you one of those right now. I saw a question that had to do with, let me get to it real quick. Sam Russell, when buying a used AK, so I know a lot of people want, this is on their mind, what should we check to ensure previous owners, builders didn't fuck it up?
I can go with obviously, if you have a set of headspace gauges, you're way ahead of the curve. Check the rivets. Look at all the rivets. Do they look uniform? Do they all look good and flat? Do they, look like they've been done correctly? How does, when you look down the length of the rifle, does everything look pretty much straight? AKs will have slight cants to some of the parts, but does it look pretty much straight? How much rust and junk is inside of the thing? Is there, a quarter inch of, built up carbon on everything? You get a lot of things, hints off of that. If the gun looks beat, it probably is. And you better be getting it cheap because you may be putting some money into it. If you got headspace gauges, would make it really nice because, nothing like buying a gun and, first time you shoot it, it starts doing weird things with the casings and shearing them off or something. And now you got to take it to a gunsmith and have it fixed.
And John, Curtis Alstrom of VSO, Robert Forbes, and I wrote a paper on proper headspace measurement of the AK that you can Google. If you just Google AK headspace measurement, then that PDF will come up. You don't just go into, you don't just throw the headspace gauge in the chamber, rip the, charging handle all the way back and let fly. That is not proper headspacing. So, and particularly with our guns, we headspace them tight. They're in spec, but they're tight. There is a method and a procedure to doing headspace checking. So if you follow it, you will get a measurement. If you don't follow it, you will not get a measurement. You will think you got a measurement, but you don't. So at the risk of sounding grumpy, read the manual.
Grumpy. Brian, did you have any more on your post that you did? Any more questions that?
I got some good ones here. From either Sam. Sorry, Aura Abplanap. If you snag an AK that's not one you built, what's the first thing you modify on it?
For me personally, probably the muzzle brake. I'm a tinkerer. I mean, we have a tray full of muzzle brakes we've either bought or been given or been sent to us to try out and try it on different guns because literally it's amazing a muzzle brake how much it will affect a gun. We once spent a good amount of time out in the desert. For us, we could go out to the desert, and we basically had one person shooting, one person off to the side, one person direct behind the shooter, and we would put the brake on, shoot 5 rounds, and the person shooting, hey, that felt good. Guy to the right, that sounded good. It looked like it was good control, and the guy behind could tell you just how loud it was. And some brakes we actually ran would actually make the gun malfunction. We tried it on our mini monster because obviously being such a short gun, it's going to react very strangely to a brake if it's out of whack. And we had one brake we put on there would constantly make the gun malfunction. You put 5 rounds in there, you're going to have at least one malfunction in that time. We had another brake that was almost like you're getting kicked in the chin because it would throw the gun nose down so hard, the butt would come and hit you in the back of the chin. And we had other ones. We had a very simple Tapco brake, I think it was. There was like a $20 brake we'd bought in the past. It worked amazing. It was kind of surprising that something like that would be so good. So for me, I would probably change brakes. Yep.
We have a fun one coming out. I should send you to play with. We already ship it on our production models. It's a suppressor ready, dead air suppressor key mount deal. but the brake has the baffles angled forward instead of back. And it is specifically designed for Californians and other banned state customers that don't want to brake, but they through legislation have to. And I personally have become very sensitive to brake compression, maybe because I shoot so much. I don't know why, but when I get overpressure, if I'm shooting 10 guns that all have really loud brakes on them, I get kind of hung over and foggy by the end of the day. And so this one, instead of, it has a 10-degree forward cant on those baffles, and it's shocking how much it projects the shockwave downrange as opposed to the side or at the shooter. But, a competition shooter might hate the brake because it's not very aggressive in terms of recoil mitigation.
Speaking of competition shooting, that was what our last episode was about. Shooting competitions with the AK-47. So we answered a lot of equipment questions in that episode.
Yeah. And the first thing I'd modify is a Merc, but I'm slightly biased.
you put a handguard on there, a Merc handguard?
Yeah.
I would do trigger. Trigger's typically the first thing that I change on any gun that I get, no matter AR, AK, pistol.
That's not wrong. Yeah.
Pistol grip, that might be something too.
Yeah.
Change the pistol grip.
Sure.
I got big fat hands, so I like a bigger, meatier grip. Like the U.S. Palm ones, I like those grips because I can get my hand around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually John that taught me about finger grooves in grips. We started out selling the 1775 with a Hogue because that grip fits my hand awesome. And I just think they're the coolest thing ever. And I brought the prototype by John, and he's like, love everything about this gun except the grip. My fingers are too big. And I go, what? Because John and I are the same build pretty much. And for whatever reason, his fingers don't fit in those grooves. And he said, yeah, smaller people hate them too. And I smacked my forehead and I go, of course. And then we standardized on the Tango Down U.S. Palm style. And we have maybe 5 people that have requested a grip different from that out of many hundreds of guns by now. So, a grip is a good idea and highly personal, but yeah, we love those U.S. Palm or Tango Down.
How about you, John? Have you perused through the questions there? Do you see anything you'd like to tackle?
Peruse post-haste here.
Peruse. So while you're perusing, don't forget, Leadhead's got some giveaways that we're getting ready to do for you that participated with the questions. Seal 1. It's got their awesome cleaning kit, TLP cleaning kit. It's got the brush, got 2 different delivery systems for the product. They also make an aerosol, which I really like their aerosol delivery system for their product. Dump tray from Mission First Tactical, ALG trigger from Geisley, and John's going to give away one of their cool M13 t-shirts. So did you find one?
While John's perusing there's a real good one here. Magwell modifications. Some mags are a better fit than others. Open them up. I've got a video out on YouTube where I talk about tuning mags to guns and guns to mags. And it's almost always the case that you want to tune the mag to the gun. Some guns don't have very good magwells cut in on them, but generally speaking, it's my contention you want to mod the mag. There's a fairly fine window of acceptance. It's tighter with 74s than 47s. If you find that every mag is tight, then yeah, maybe that's a good case for doing that, but you really want to do it a little bit at a time because you can't put the metal back on. My favorite tool for tuning magwells are these $7 a set. They're these diamond, they're not needle files, but if you just hop on Amazon and look for diamond file, you'll see them coming with a red handle and in a little blue plastic cheesy Chinesium case.
And
awesome.
Speaking of the mags, the SAC Archer, in relation to that, the Kirkham shelf, options that are compatible with most or all polymer mags. Is there
most, but not all? Anything with a waffle pattern? doesn't work with the shelf.
Yeah.
You can belt sand down a waffle mag to where it'll fit. Like we've done this with X-Tex quite a bit. They're very friendly to having their waffle prints belt sanded off on the right side.
Yeah. I think he's asking, is there an option for the Kirkham shelf, to have the Kirkham shelf that would be compatible with like the US Palm Mag or something like that? Is it
not
possible to put that on?
It's not something you want to do with your life. Yeah, you defeat a lot of the purpose of a shelf by having it fit everything.
Yeah. I have it on mine, and I don't miss not running the waffle mags out of it. So,
sure. Yeah, exactly. It's not, for most folks, it's not a big sacrifice. And it's got a lot of upside, for
now
beginners.
I do miss not being able to run this big American Tactical 60 round magazine through it. But I'm just kidding.
Oh, a Schmeister.
I got a Schmeister. They sent me another, so I was having issues with the first one they sent me. I talked about it on the show. So semi-auto, it shot fine. Full auto, didn't like it at all. So they sent me another one, so I'm going to try it out. We'll see how it works. But
very cool.
I've got high hopes.
Saw a good one on here on how is the coronavirus affecting us on supply chain. For us recently, barrels have become a serious issue for us. To be able to locate barrels, just 762 545 for a while now. It's all barrels are kind of gone. I mean, you just can't find them anywhere.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, we got fired by one barrel manufacturer, and our other one is very graciously taking care of us. But we had to up our order a bunch, and
there's an opportunity here for a enterprising lead head. You're hearing all these demands and wants, and from these two guys, it's like, we can't get this stuff, can't get it. Great opportunity to get into the barrel making industry, the trigger making industry, the AK parts industry.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I would advise, if somebody's thinking of that, do ask a lot of questions before you start making parts.
Well, of course.
Oh yeah.
Do your research.
That suck.
Do your research, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, we've noticed, it's just regular supply chain of parts are getting hard to find. I mean, they're just not out there right now. And, it's
not just the gun, it's everywhere, everything's that way right now.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about triggers earlier and being able to get ALG triggers during good times. That's what John was talking about with ordering 100 and getting 50, or ordering 50 and getting 24. That was before COVID. Yeah. Now it's almost impossible to find them. I mean, people are wondering why our prices are going up. Well, I just went on the web the other day because I can't get ALG triggers, and I bought everything that a Safe Space Tactical had in their store, and they're like a regular old, AR parts store. And that's literally what we're having to do, is just the same way that our leadhead customers are looking around. The price you see that for an ALG trigger retail is the price I'm paying right now, and I'm happy to be able to just get the part. So yeah, it's massively changed.
Did I say I was giving away an ALG trigger? I meant I'm giving away a Talking Leadhead Brigade patch instead.
There you go. There you go.
I'm going to keep that. No, just kidding. Somebody's going to win it. Somebody's going to win that. So I think it's time. Let's do it. Those were great questions. Thanks to everyone who participated. And you're all eligible to win one of our awesome prizes here. So let's pick some winners. What do you say?
Sounds good.
Plan.
All right. We'll start with our guest, John. Go to our Instagram page there, peruse through there, and pick us a winner for the dump tray. This will be for the dump tray.
All right, who's got a nice... I'm working on my gun question.
I'm doing a drum roll.
All right. How about Casey Loftus.
Loftus? Casey.
Loftus. Yep.
Casey Loftus. There you go. What was his question? It had to do with...
His question was just his first experiences. He worked on it. He got an Occam Defense RST.
Oh, yeah.
And had us put it on. So there you go. He's used both our products.
Boom. There you go. So Casey, like you get one of our Smith. We're going to call them Smith trays instead of dump trays now.
There you go.
Smithing trays from Mission First Tactical. Go check them out. If you didn't win, you can go pick these up at Mission First Tactical. We've got our tactical wallets there also with the Talking Lead logo. They'll even put any logo that you want on there. They can do that. They've got holsters. They've got AR parts. Hopefully they'll get back into the AK parts. They used to do that. But use code LEADHEAD. You're going to get 20% off at Mission First Tactical. All right, next prize. Let's give away the Seal 1 kit. Seal1.net. And Brian, I'm going to let you pick the winner for that. And as you're perusing through Seal1.net, if you use the code LEADHEAD, you're going to get 25% off any of their products at Seal 1. And Dwight joined us in our last episode that Brian and I did with Jack Carr. So on the main episode of Talking Lead, if you didn't get a chance, go back. Make sure you listen to that episode with Jack Carr, author, former Navy SEAL. We talk about his new book. Brian, what's it called?
Yeah.
The Devil's Hand.
The Devil's Hand. There you go.
Yeah, among other things. We talked about a lot of cool stuff. But Dwight joined us on that also. He was going to try to join us tonight, but he's at a show. There's actually a show going on somewhere that he's at.
He's in my neighborhood. I think he's up in Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He's up in Coeur d'Alene. So who's the winner? And pick somebody who hadn't won before.
Well, this guy, EKYAR 8630, EAKYAR 8630, that had the reason I'm picking him is he had the question on the sticky bolt carrier and ALG trigger.
Okay.
That's a dude who went for it and is having a problem and is trying to get it fixed, and I love it.
If he's got sticky problems, he could use Seal 1 to help clean out his sticky problems there. There you go. Cleans, lubricates, and protects. Definitely.
And is so bodily compatible should you be in a pinch.
So is that on your page or my page?
I think that might have been on my Insta.
On your, so like hover over his name and see what his real name is, if it'll show it.
Yeah, for sure.
That way he knows for sure who he is.
Aaron, spelled ERENF, AK, which I bet is Aaron FAK.
Okay, nice. I like that. So shoot me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com, with your contact info, and Dwight will send you out a nice Seal 1 package there, Aaron. All right, next up, let's do the T-shirt from John from M13. And I'm going to pick the winner for that. I'm going to go to my Facebook page. And lots of good questions. And some of you asked multiple questions, too. You just couldn't get enough out of one question. Sinister Fist, Brett Bedell, Orpheus Barrows, Matthew Lottie, lots of Sam Russell, Mike Tias Jr. How do I get into building AKs at home? Well, there you go, Mike. We're going to start with giving you a T-shirt from M13 Industries.
Heck yeah.
And
give him a little better. Give him a little better advice than that.
Well, both John and I learned with Jim Fuller, so I don't know if he's doing build classes anymore, but he's solid. The gang at RD still does build classes. Mesa Kinetic puts one on that's high quality, and then Lee Armory also does build classes. Starting with the class, it might seem expensive. It is cheap. It's really cheap. Is that of your thinking, John?
Yeah, it also will get you some of the little tricks. I mean, we all have tricks how to do things, and it gives you some of the tricks of what is okay. You know, like Brian says, what, like, trigger guards, how do they fit? What is okay? What is not okay? When you're doing your headspace, what is okay? It's one thing to actually see it and be able to ask a question of, hey, is that what exactly what it's supposed to look like? Yes. Or what if it was a little bit more this way? That's okay too, but you'd prefer to have it over here, kind of thing. So that it's definitely, like you said, it is definitely worth the money. Yeah, it's a lot of money. You're going to spend some cash, but usually you walk away with another gun which you built yourself, and you can use as a reference library later. Look at it and go, okay, I see how I did that. I remember now, and you can go back to doing another one before you mess up your first kits.
Yep. You can blow through a lot of kits. I haven't looked at what the build classes are these days. I think they're around a couple grand. You can, especially with what kits cost these days, $2,000 is not a lot of money. So
yeah. It's a steep learning curve if you start messing up kits nowadays.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to give away the trigger now. The ALG trigger from Geisley. It's the AKT-EL, enhanced with lightning bow. So as Brian and John told you, these things are hard to get. They're rare. This thing's probably worth $1 million right now. So
I'm sure they're on your broker for hundreds.
So very generous of our buddies over at ALG and Geisley to provide this to you lead heads. So pick a number between 1 and, let's say, we probably got at least 50 questions, between 1 and 50. Should we do a random number generator or what?
Random generator.
All right. And what I'm going to do is one of you guys is doing a random number generator for me there, is I'm going to start the countdown from Facebook. No, actually, I'm going to start it from Brian's Instagram post. Then we're going to jump to my Facebook, and then we'll jump to the Instagram if we don't hit the number.
All right. Your magic number is 29.
29. So start with yours and count down your questions there.
Here. 1, 2. We have 8 questions in the Occam. Hey, but they're the highest quality questions.
Of course.
I'm gonna say. We only got 8, but there's
8. So then I said I was going to go to what, Facebook? My Facebook?
Sounds right.
All right. So there's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21. And now I'm going to jump to Instagram. And you said 22?
29.
Oh, 29. Okay. So 21. Let's go to Instagram. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Sinister Fist.
Boom. Congrats.
Sinister Fist, who is also Sinister Fist. Well, he don't post his real name on there. And he had the RS Regulate question that we couldn't answer. So fitting. So Sinister Fist, shoot me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com. You have won the ALG trigger. So send that to me. And whoever won the shirt, send me email talkinglead@gmail.com with your shirt size, and I'll send that to John. If he's got your size, he'll send it. If not, he'll just send you whatever size he's got. But there you go. There's our winners. You listen, you participate, you win here on Talking Lead. So go show all our sponsors some love. Let them know how much you appreciate them making the Talking Lead AK Korner possible. Occam Defense Solutions. Check them out at occamdefensesolutions.com. Instagram is Occam Defense Solutions, at Occam Defense Solutions. And no discount codes right now from Brian because everything's at a premium, which is understandable.
Always been on sale. We sell as reasonable.
That's right. That's right.
Free shipping every day. And yeah, I
like that. Mission First Tactical. Be sure to use that code LEADHEAD for 20% off. Seal1, seal1.net. Leadhead, you're going to get 25% off there. ASP USA, which is ASP USA, has some awesome dual fuel flashlights that you can get 20% off on their website. Use code LED20. And then, of course, Factory 47, you're going to get the, and I'll put my, for the listeners, the people watching the YouTube video here, I'm going to put this background back up. That's not it. There it is. The official Talking Lead AK Korner logo, Factory 47, is putting these on T-shirts, hoodies, and I don't have my mug tonight, but they've got cool mugs that they've got that logo on. It's engraved. The background screwing things up. But you can go there, factory47.com, use the code LEADHEAD, get 10% off any of their products, and they've got cool AK-themed logo T-shirts. They've got all the manufacturing companies' logos on T-shirts. It's really cool, and ours are double printed, so you get our logo on the front and on the back. You get a whole slew of other AK manufacturers' logos. It's pretty cool. So go check them out, factory47.com. Oh, IWI US, definitely. Go show them some love over there. Still in the works on getting an episode about Uzis, John. We're going to talk Uzis one episode on the Talking Lead AK Korner. You got any experience with Uzis?
Got one sitting on the ground over here.
Let's see it. Show it. We're gun porn. We're all about it. We love the gun porn. So, Brian, from now, we're going to have our guns here and pointing and talking about stuff.
It's still pieces, but we got one to rebuild here.
Beautiful.
It's a postie. So it's had a rough life, and it needs a lot of love.
Needs a little
It's
love.
actually a range gun from one of the ranges here in town. It needs a lot of weld repair on it because they run them till they die. So
now you're in Vegas. Do you deal with what's the big one there in Vegas? The big gun?
Battlefield Vegas.
Battlefield. Do you deal with them?
No, they got their own crew there because they eat up some guns. I always tell everyone range guns have no life. They're going to die fast.
Yeah.
To kind of scare you on how many rounds on peak times, those guys in a 3-day weekend will go through 100,000 rounds of 7.62 for 3 guns.
Yeah, that sounds like Royal Range USA here in Nashville. They do that too. They'll host bachelor parties and things like that. People come in and they've got the fully auto guns. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, so give your contact info again where everybody can get in touch with you, your website, your social medias, all that.
Website is M13Industries.com. If you're going to contact us, it's info@M13Industries.com. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook, Instagram. All underneath our name, M13 Industries. We found everywhere.
Everywhere. They're everywhere. And let them know, Leadheads. Go show him some love. Let him know how much you appreciate him being on, sharing his knowledge. Would love to get you back on, John. There's so much more that we could talk about, and we're 4 episodes in of a 12-episode season, so we got lots more of Talking Lead AK Korner coming up. And Brian, Occam Defense Solutions, give all the contact info there.
Yeah, OccamDefense.com, Instagram, which is the best way to interact with me personally, is in the chat in posts. Occam Defense.
Uh-oh.
We lost Ryan.
It's there.
He's back.
Then email is on our website if you want to get in touch with us on a custom build or something like that, or you just got a question. Phone, we don't answer the phone very much, but we do return voicemail. And so you can expect a return call within 24 hours if you leave us a voicemail. And that's the show.
There you go. That's it. That does it for Season 3, Episode 4 of the Talking Lead AK Korner. I guess I should hold up the AK Korner logo. There it is. If you guys have, again, shoot me an email if you've got suggestions for topics that you want us to talk about, either on the AK Korner or just our regular show, guest If there's a particular guest, company, or product, anything like that you want us to talk about or have on the show, talkinglead@gmail.com. Put AK Korner in the subject. Ask your question. Post your suggestion. Love to hear from the lead heads, the lead head brigade. Because, John, we have been leducating the unleducated at Talking Lead for almost a decade, brother. Going on 10 years coming up.
Nice.
So, lead heads, until the next episode of the AK Korner, get out there, study up, and let's participate, listen, and win. Talking Lead.